Hi everyone, and welcome back to another EU4 video. Today we are going to be doing a guide for the nation of Venice in EU4 1.34. Before this video begins, I would just like to say, if you are enjoying these guides, please don't hesitate to leave a like and consider subscribing. It helps out the channel immensely. And now, let's jump into Venice. The nation of Venice is a nation located in northern Italy. Venice is actually one of the most powerful tags in Italy at the start of the game. You have immense trade income, and you are actually in one of the best trade nodes in the game, that being the Venetian trade node, and your massive size allows you to ally pretty much all the major powers that exist in Europe. So suffice to say, Venice is one of the easiest nations to play in Italy. If you are a newer player, you might be slightly confused with Venice, as they have, of course, the normal estates tab that we all know, but they also have a tab here called Factions. Now, these factions give you various bonuses, but also penalties for being in power. So as you can see here with the aristocrats, you lose trade power abroad, but you get morale of armies and national sailors. For the traders, you get less tax, but you get more global trade power and more naval maintenance. Less naval maintenance. For the guilds, you get less construction costs, but less national manpower and more goods produced. It's really up to you what you want to do with these. Keep in mind that they do gain influence passively through various things, such as army tradition. With the traders, it's navy tradition, and with the guilds, you gain influence through overextension bankruptcy. It's up to you. You can boost them if you want various things to happen. When you're at war, you should definitely try to keep the aristocrats in power for that morale of armies. When you're at peace, you can keep either the traders or the guilds in power. It's up to you. However, definitely when you're at war, you should boost the aristocrats. For your starting allies as Venice, you should go for Austria, France, if you can, and Castile. Castile and Austria are definitely going to help you. Austria especially is going to help you counter in Italy. Now, for your rivals, you should go for whoever has rivaled you. However, you should prioritize these rivals above others. So, rival the Ottomans, rival Lithuania for the power projection here, because they're going to get eclipsed or annexed by Hungary, become a junior partner. And whoever else has rivaled you here. I'm not going to rival the Pope because I don't want them to excommunicate me, although they probably will. I'm going to rival Aragon. You can also use this time to improve with the French. You might be able to ally them. They are friendly towards you. You really don't need them once you have Castile and Austria. However, France can be definitely a good ally to have in case one of these guys likes to break their alliance with you, especially Austria. You may notice after you get those allies that you might be over your Diplo limit, and that is because you were guaranteeing both Albania and the Knights. It's up to you. A lot of people like to leave Albania there so the Ottomans can attack them and then you can call in your allies. I don't like to do that, mostly because if the Ottomans see your alliance network here, they are most likely not going to attack you. I already have Castile and Austria, and if I get France or if I get someone else here, the Ottomans probably aren't going to attack you, so it's really just a wasted Diplo slot. You're just sitting there wasting it. So I am actually going to revoke the guarantee on Albania, which you should too, and I'm also going to revoke my guarantee on the Knights. As is quite common with these merchant republics, you might get a looming disaster saying that there's going to be a plutocratic coup because the burghers' influence above 100. Don't worry, that'll go away in a month or two. The next thing that you should be doing as Venice is looking at your navy here and seeing what you can build. I'm going to start building up to 10 to 15 galleys and some more light ships. We're going to use these light ships to protect trade, and we're going to use these galleys in a war that we're going to start very soon, and I'll show you which war that's going to be. For your national focus as Venice, you should definitely be focusing on Mill, as we are going to need that advanced military tech to beat the Ottomans, who we're going to be fighting very early in the game, and to win our first war, that being Byzantium. Speaking of which, you should send your available diplomat to Byzantium to start building a spy network. We're going to build a spy network on Byzantium so we can annex them and then use their cores to reconquer the Ottoman land. Another thing that you should be doing right now as Venice, as your spies build a spy network in Byzantium, is start improving with Austria. The reason we want to improve with Austria is because we want to join the Holy Roman Empire. and we need 190 relations, but only have 103. You can achieve this in just a few months, especially if you've allied the Austrians. Now, the reason we want to join the Empire is because we are surrounded by people in the Empire. Milan, Mantua, and Ferrara, and all these people that we want to fight are currently in the Empire. So in order to attack them without Austria getting involved, we also have to join the Empire. At this point in the game, as you can see, Poland got Lithuania as a personal union, which means we have lost them as a rival. Go ahead and select some of these other people here that are available. Don't select the Pope because they are probably going to excommunicate you if you select them. Go ahead and select someone else. I'm going to select Serbia. And like I said, unfortunately the Pope has excommunicated us, despite us not rivaling them back. What we can do here is, if this does happen to you, don't panic. Just use your money, if you don't have enough, take out loans to buy indulgences for your sins. That will give you papal influence, but if we wait 1 month, it'll also make the excommunication go away. And there we go, it's gone. And since Venice is a republic, we do have elections. Now, elections for the Venetian Republic happen every time your ruler dies. There is no set term like some of these other merchant republics. It's up to you. They do use a lottery system, so unless you see a really good leader here, a 252, a 233, none of these are really that amazing. They are also all quite old. Just use the lottery and let the lottery decide. And as you can see, we got the worst one. But hey, that's the luck of the lottery. If, like me, you were able to improve with the Polish and ally them, definitely do that. It is going to take you one of your Diplo relation, as you can see. However, they're very much a worthwhile ally to get, them and the Austrians, as they will definitely help you out against the Ottomans, who we are going to be fighting quite early in the game. And now that most of your ships have been done building, we're still waiting on 1 or 2 light ships and some galleys. You can go ahead and hire an admiral and load up as many troops as your transports can carry. Send them to one of your little islands here, and get ready to attack the Byzantines. As I showed you before, we fabricated a claim on Byzantium, actually fabricated a claim on Athens, and we're going to use that claim to attack the Byzantines and vassalize them. Now, one more thing, before you attack the Byzantines, make sure that you join the Holy Roman Empire, as once we take Byzantium as a vassal, we will actually be too big to join the HRE. At least that's how it's been in previous patches, so go ahead and join the HRE. Once your troops are in position, get ready to attack Byzantium. However, before you do that, make sure that you join the HRE, as when you take Byzantium as a vassal or full annex them, you will be too big to join, so make sure you join before the Byzantine War. And now that we have successfully joined the HRE and have all of our troops in position, we can go ahead and attack Byzantium. We fabricated a claim on their vassal, since that's the province that we want to take. We'll go ahead and attack Byzantium and take the province of Athens. Byzantium usually never has any powerful allies. They might get, like in my case, Wallachia. They might get Trebizond is another common one. Sometimes they get Theodoro or Serbia. Usually Serbia is their only most powerful ally that they're able to get. However, in my case, it's just Wallachia, which is very easy to defeat. So go ahead and attack Byzantium or the province of Athens. While you're at war with the Byzantines, don't forget to develop your capital up to 30 development, as we want to tick off the age objective here, called Own a Large City. Once you build up to your naval force limit as Venice, you can complete this mission called Expand the Arsenal. This gives you some more naval tradition and a free admiral. I would advise you to wait taking this admiral until you go to war with the Ottomans, as you're going to need this admiral to counter the big Ottoman navy. For your Tier 2 government reform, you should take Virtues of the Politia. In this war, you should be able to piece out any secondary ally that Byzantium has very easily. In my case, it was Wallachia, and I actually didn't need to do anything because they got attacked by Poland. Very nice. As you can see, the war with Byzantium is pretty much over. It went very well. When it comes to the peace deal, there are 2 things you can do. The first thing that you can do is just vassalize them straight out. Now, when you vassalize Byzantium, that will actually set free Athens. The thing is, behind this peace deal, is that when you vassalize Byzantium, you actually have a negative modifier called forced vassalization, which will make it harder for them to become loyal. you can see it's 36 AE and 75 Diplo. So what I recommend instead is taking everything, fully annexing them. It's pretty much the same in Diplo and the same in AE. However, you don't get the modifier from releasing Byzantium of forced vassalization. So for the peace deal, you should annex all of Byzantium and Athens, and then go into your country tab and manually release them. Take all of their money, and that's it. And like I said, once you have fully annexed Byzantium, you can go into your government tab here, create a subject, and release Byzantium. This will not give them the modifier of forced vassalization, as you can see here. And by this point in the game, you should have the Renaissance spawn. I was actually very, very lucky to spawn the Renaissance here in Venice, so I'm going to go ahead and take it. It's not guaranteed that this will happen in your game, however, the chances do increase substantially if you put your capital up to 30 development. Now that that war with Byzantium is over, and we have fully annexed them and then released them, you can start improving with your vassal that you have at the start of the game, Naxos, so that you can annex them. Remember, you have to be up to 190 relations in order to annex your vassal. Now that you've gotten slightly bigger, you might have eclipsed one or two of your rivals. At this point, you can go ahead and rival whoever else. I would not recommend actually rivaling the Mamelukes, as sometimes the Mamelukes will ally you and fight the Ottomans with you. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and rival Hungary. What you should be doing now is getting ready for your next war. Now, your next war can be any one of these small little nations that are in the HRE, whether that's Ferrara, Mantua, or sometimes Bologna. In our case, they did not join the HRE. Now, it's up to you who you attack first. You can attack all three of these once you build a spy network. Just look at their alliance network here. Mantua, unfortunately, is allied to Hungary, which is too much. Ferrara is only allied to Provence and Florence, and Bologna is allied to the Pope and guaranteed by Florence, which means we'd be fighting the Pope and Florence. Since Ferrara has an estuary here, I'm going to start spying on them so I can attack Ferrara. And once your spy network on Ferrara is finished and you have fabricated a claim like I have, you can go ahead and attack them. They shouldn't have very powerful allies. As you can see, actually, one of their allies, Provence, won't join, so it's just me against Florence. So go ahead and attack Ferrara or any of these other little nations which are easy. And once you can afford it, make sure you start building trade buildings in all of your centers of trade. Right now, I'm going to build one in Venice. And by this point is Venice, with that amazing monument, you should have reached your Tier 3 government reform. Your Tier 3 government reform, I recommend taking dispersed power across the cities. Okay, and now that the war with Ferrara is over, they have unconditionally surrendered, we just pieced out Florence for some war reps and all of their money. We can go ahead and do the peace deal like this. Just take both of their provinces here. You shouldn't have any AE with anyone in Italy, since the only provinces that you took were from Byzantium, and Byzantium is an Orthodox nation in the Balkans, so no one cares about them. So for this peace deal with Ferrara, you should take both of their provinces, fully annexing them, and all of their money. And by this point in the game, enough time should have passed, so you can start annexing Naxos. Make sure, while you're annexing them, that you enable scuddage, as that will allow them to continue to be annexed while they're at war. And while you're annexing Naxos, you can get ready for your next war. Your next war is going to be against Epirus. Byzantium actually has a core on Arta, which is one of Epirus's provinces. You should go ahead and declare the war. Epirus should not be allied to anyone big. Normally, the only people that they'll ally is Ragusa. Sometimes they'll ally Albania. However, in our case, they're only allied to Ragusa. So, we're going to declare the war for the conquest of Arta. So, the war with Epirus is over. However, with this peace deal, we're going to do something a little bit different. Since Epirus was allied with Ragusa, they got called into the war. I did not co-belligerate Ragusa, as they are guaranteed by the Ottomans, so that would have called the Ottomans in. However, in this war, I am still going to fully annex Ragusa and Epirus. So what you can do here is transfer all of the provinces in Epirus over to Byzantium, and just keep Ragusa for yourself. So go ahead and peace out Epirus, take everything, and Ragusa, take all of their money, so no one cares. So take this peace deal here, fully annex Epirus, give all of the Epiresian provinces to Byzantium, and take Ragusa for yourself. Once you have finished up that war against Epirus and Ragusa, and have given all the provinces to Byzantium and taken Ragusa, it is now time to start looking for your next target. Now, your next target can either be someone in Italy, or it can be someone in the Balkans. Ideally, your next target would be Serbia, as Serbia has this lovely gold mine here. However, in our case, Serbia is actually guaranteed by Hungary. We could fight Hungary if one of our allies join. However, since I annex Naxos and I have low Diplo rep, no one wants to help right now. Now, that's not really too big of a problem. We can just pick another person here to attack. In our case, we can attack Herzegovina as they have very bad allies, or we can attack Bosnia. However, I recommend that your next target should be someone in Italy. So look at these alliance networks here. We already annexed Ferrara, so look at the alliance networks. Bologna here is allied by the Papal State and guaranteed by Florence. However, we can see here that Florence would not actually join because they are being attacked by Siena, of all people. So it looks like Florence is probably going to go away. When you are looking at conquests in Italy as Venice, you should prioritize nations that are within your trade node. So in our case, Bologna, Ferrara, Mantua, and we have Urbino here, who is a vassal of the Pope. So when you're looking here about who should I be attacking in Italy, you should always prioritize people that are in your trade node. And since we joined the HRE, and since we're located in Italy, we're going to get the event here called the Shadow Kingdom. I'll show you what to do once it pops up, but suffice to say, we will be staying in the Empire as long as Austria remains the Emperor, and as long as we remain allied to Austria. And now that our spy network is done and we fabricated a claim on Bologna, it's time to attack them. In our game, Venice actually revoked the guarantee because they got completely crushed by Siena, and then Siena re-guaranteed them, but that's no problem. Siena is still small, and Bologna normally won't have any big allies. In our game, they allied the Papal States, but the Pope is just doing that because they're rival to us. So go ahead and attack them. Don't really worry about what allies they have, as long as they're not very big. At this point in the game, you will probably get the event for the Shadow Kingdom, and since we joined the Empire, we are going to get the option of whether or not we should stay in the Empire. Now, as you can see, it looks like we are the only ones that decided to stay. Everyone else decided to leave. It really is up to you. However, I'm going to stay in the Empire for now, seeing as we're allied to Austria, and it says we'll get these penalties to prestige and unrest and things like that. However, we'll just lose the initial 20 prestige, and we won't get these penalties since we are allied to the Emperor being Austria. As Venice, you are going to get this event called the Growing Power of the 10. Now, you can do two things. You can either restrict the power of the 10, which gives you some Republican tradition up front, but gives you some of these modifiers here, or you can lose the Republican tradition right now and then lose some yearly. I would say if you took the government reform, which gives more Republican tradition, I would say you should take the bottom one. However, in our case, we did not take that reform, and losing one Republican tradition per year, we'd only be getting 0.55. So I'm going to go ahead and restrict the power of the 10. However, if you, for your tier 2 government reform, took republicanism, then you should not restrict the power of the Council of 10. One very important thing that you should do in this war is if, like me, the Pope rivaled you, and if the Pope guaranteed or allied Bologna, in the peace deal with the Pope, you should actually make sure, go to annul treaties, and make sure that the Pope ends their rival with you. This should stop them from continuing to excommunicate you over and over and over again. They still will desire your province of Ravenna since they have a core on it. However, this should make it a little bit less likely for them to continue to excommunicate you. Okay, by this point, you should have finished the war with Bologna. In the peace deal with Bologna, what you're going to go ahead and do is just full annex them. It's actually only 1480, and that's because they were never in the Empire, and a lot of these countries left the Empire. So just go ahead and full annex them. For your tier 4 government reform as Venice, I recommend taking curtail clerical privileges. Lands for the church is very nice, and these Curia Paris cost is also very nice. However, in your game, and in my case, the clergy already have a lot of influence due to all the things that we gave out to them. So it is best to take either curtail clerical privileges or maintain balance of power. I'm going to take curtail clerical privileges. And by this point in your game, Renaissance should have spread to most of your country, especially if you got it in your capital, so go ahead and embrace it, and then tech up. For your first idea group as Venice, it really depends how many points you have saved up in each category. In my case, I have a lot of mill power saved up, so I'm going to go ahead and take a mill idea. If you are going to go ahead and take a mill idea, ideally you would take plutocratic ideas for all of these bonuses. However, in my case, my manpower is severely depleted from fighting all of those rebels and that war, so I'm going to go ahead and take quantity ideas. And now I can actually ally the Pope. If you remember in the peace deal, I actually made them break their rivalry with me, so now they should ally me, and they also don't desire revenge anymore, so this is good. I won't be excommunicated anymore, and now I have the Pope as an ally. By this point in the game, after you've fought either Bologna or any of the other eligible people that you could have fought, it is now time for you to fight the Ottomans. Make sure that you build a spy network in the Ottomans. Now, we don't have hardly any manpower. However, I am confident that we can win, as we have both Austria and Poland as an ally, and the Ottomans are also over here fighting someone in Anatolia. Ideally, when you attack the Ottomans, you want to wait until they're fighting someone, either the Mamluks or someone over here in Anatolia, maybe Karaman, or in our case, Dulkadir. So once all your allies will join, and you have a diplomat available, go ahead and declare the war on the Ottomans. Go ahead and do a reconquest war. I'm going to set the war goal to Gallipoli. And if, like me, you were saving that great admiral for the Ottoman War, make sure you take that mission now and send that admiral to be in command of your fighting navy. This war isn't going to be the easiest war, however, it is going to be made a lot easier since you have Austria on your side, in my case, and Poland. That's why I said you should try to ally both Austria and Poland, as they will help you out substantially in the Ottoman War. And I have completed another mission as Venice, that is monopolize Adriatic trade. In the Ottoman War, once you successfully take Gallipoli, make sure that you scorch it and proceed with caution when you go over into Anatolia. The two forts you want to focus on are Gelibolu and Kocaeli. Once you take Gelibolu and Kocaeli, the rest of the war going to Anatolia will be very easy. In my game, I can actually call Castile into this war. However, you might not be allied to Castile, or you might not be able to call them in, so I'm not going to call them in just to simulate your more likely situation. For your first age objective as Venice, I recommend taking Justified Wars. And by this point in the Ottoman War, you should have about 50% war score. You can keep going, or if in my case, I lost the battle for the liberation of the Siege of Edirne, so I'm going to go ahead and peace out, and you should be able to peace out around this time as well. For the peace deal, make sure that you give Byzantium most of their cores back. You're not going to be able to give them every single one of their cores in this war, however, you should be able to give them most of them. So go ahead and take these provinces here and give them back to Byzantium. Make sure you take Gelibolu, leave Edirne or Adrianople as their capital, as this will allow for some easy war score like we were able to do originally in this war. And another thing that you should be taking is make sure that you take at least one Bulgarian cultured province. The reason that you should do that is you should be able to release the nation of Bulgaria, as you can see, who has tons and tons of cores on the rest of the Ottoman Balkans. No matter your situation, make sure that you take and give Byzantium back all of their cores in the Ottomans, take either more money or another province here, and make sure that you take at least one Bulgarian cultured province so that you are able to release the nation of Bulgaria. So go ahead and do that peace deal and send it. Now that you have given back Byzantium almost all of their cores besides Adrianople, the Ottomans really shouldn't be too much of a problem for the rest of the game. Your goal should be to release Bulgaria and feed them back all of their cores in the Balkans. Once you remove the Ottomans from the Balkans, they really won't be a problem anymore. I'm assuming the Ottomans will likely be attacked by the Mamluks very soon, and the Mamluks would actually ally me now, which is pretty amazing. Once I showed, I guess, that I could beat the Ottomans, now they want to be my ally. And after your war with the Ottomans, you've likely incurred quite a few losses, especially if you've lost battles, like in my case. What I'm doing right now is I'm just building a spy network on Serbia. While you're waiting and chilling and bringing your army maintenance down and paying off some loans, keep an eye out to see who your next target can be. My next target is going to be Serbia, since I wasn't able to get the gold mine in Kosovo. However, in your game, your next target might be someone else. It might be Herzegovina, or it might be Mantua. Just look around in Italy and in the Balkans, see what the alliance networks look like, and pick your targets accordingly. And I actually forgot to record the start of the war, but I just started a war against Serbia. Right now, they're actually being attacked by Hungary because they're allied to Bosnia, and Hungary attacked Bosnia, so this war is going to be easy. And if, like me, you got a claim on either Herzegovina or Bosnia, go ahead and attack them. In my case, Bosnia actually just finished getting eaten up by Hungary, so I'm going to go ahead and attack Herzegovina. And the Serbians have unconditionally surrendered. Depending on how big Serbia is in your game, that will depend on the peace deal. So in my game, Serbia has actually lost a majority of its cores, and quite a few of them are in Hungary and in the Ottomans. So it ultimately depends, it's up to you. In my game, Bulgaria actually holds a lot of these cores. However, a lot of these cores here belong to Serbia. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, of course, take the gold mine. You should always take the gold mine. But then I am going to vassalize Serbia so that I can reconquer their cores that they have into Hungary. No matter whether you vassalize Serbia or fully annex them, you should definitely make sure that you take their gold mine. And in the peace deal, you can just take their gold mine of Kosovo and maybe force religion on them and take all of their money. And Herzegovina has unconditionally surrendered. Depending on who this is, whether this is Bosnia or Herzegovina, can depend on what you are doing. If this is Bosnia and they're still alive, you can go ahead and vassalize them. That is if you didn't vassalize Serbia. If you vassalize Serbia and they have a lot of cores into Hungary and some into the Ottomans, then stay with the Serbian vassal and just fully annex whoever is here, whether that's Bosnia or Herzegovina. If you haven't vassalized Serbia because you either fully annex them or they don't have a lot of cores, then vassalize Bosnia if they are here. Go ahead and do this. In our case, we're going to just fully annex Herzegovina and take all of their money. Oh, and I didn't start this war with Savoy. The Austrians just called me in, so I'm helping them out. Kind of overkill. Once you have finished fighting either Serbia or Bosnia or both, then you can turn your attention back to Italy. Right now, I'm looking to see who I can attack. The person that I would ideally want to attack is Mantua, seeing as they have a province that is a center of trade in my trade node. However, the Mantuans are allied with Hungary, but they are also allied with Milan. So I'm fabricating a claim on Milan here so that I can attack them and make Mantua annul their alliance with Hungary. And now that our spy network has finished on Milan, we are going to go ahead and attack them. Remember, the goal of this war is to take maybe a couple provinces from Milan, but also for Mantua to come in so we can go ahead and break the Mantuan alliance that they have with Hungary. So let's go ahead and attack Milan for the conquest of Parma. And once you fully siege down Milan, you can go ahead and make them annul their alliances if they're allied to anyone annoying in your game. Like in my case, they're allied to Hungary. I'm also going to make them annul their alliance with Trent and maybe annul a few rivalries and take all of their money. And once you finish attacking Milan and you get enough war score, go ahead and do a peace deal, something like this. Take the fort in Como up in the north so no one else can get them. Take Parma and take one of the provinces here. You definitely won't have enough AE to spare to take the capital, so don't try and take the capital. It's not worth it getting a coalition that big. And take all of their money and see if they are allied to anyone annoying. Take some war reps as well and annul some treaties here. And that is it. And once you finish that war against Milan, it's time to chill. Let our aggressive expansion tick down as we've accumulated quite a lot from taking those really high dev North Italian provinces. Kill some rebels and wait for our next war. And while you're waiting for your aggressive expansion to tick down, you should also be using this time to build some buildings, build some manpower buildings, as you will probably be struggling with manpower, see which taxation buildings will give you some more money. I'm going to build one in Treviso. Look at your production buildings. Always build production buildings in high-value trade goods, such as cloth. And see where you can potentially build some more trade buildings. And once your spy network is done being built on Trent, you can go ahead and attack them. In my game, they're only allied to Mantua and Landshut, so it's not that hard of a war. However, you definitely do want to take Trent, as it's one less one province minor to enter into a coalition against you, and they are also your culture group. So go ahead and attack Trent, and we are going to full annex them. And we have finished the war against Trent. It was not very hard. I just went and sieged down their allies over here. The rebels pose more of a threat than Trent's allies. So with Trent, you're just going to go ahead and full annex them and take all of their money. It really isn't too much AE. They don't have a lot of dev, and they are in your culture. So just full annex Trent and take all of their money. I actually didn't mention that while I was doing the war with Trent, the Austrians actually broke their alliance with me. If this happens in your game, which it's pretty likely that it will, since a lot of times the Austrians tend to want your land as Venice, don't panic. Just go ahead and find another ally, whether that's Poland or Bohemia or whoever that might be. However, you need to remember that if you are still in the Empire, like I am, and you are not allied to the Emperor, you will get this horrible modifier called submission to the Emperor. So make sure, if Austria breaks their alliance with you, or you break their alliance with them, make sure that after you take Trent, and after that you core everything that's in the HRE, make sure that you leave the HRE so that you don't get that horrible modifier. By this point in the game, you should be reaching your second idea group. I recommend for your second idea group as Venice to take trade ideas. Trade ideas are great since Venice is, of course, a trading nation, but they're also great because of the really amazing policy that you get with trade ideas in quantity called the Production Quota Act with plus 20% goods produced. That is really, really good. So for Venice, as your second idea group, you should take trade ideas. After you take trade ideas, you can use this short amount of time after the Trent War to buff up your armies, build up your nation, and most importantly, let your aggressive expansion tick down. By this point, after annexing Trent and leaving the HRE and fighting in Italy, you've probably accrued quite a bit of aggressive expansion with people in Italy, so use this time, a year or two, to let your aggressive expansion tick down, build a few buildings, and get ready for your next war. By this point in the game, you should be able to take your second Splendor ability. As Venice, we actually have a special custom Splendor ability for our nation, which is plus 50% trade power, which is really good. So in this instance, seeing as we don't really need the war taxes, and the adaptive combat terrain, although is quite good, we also have a terrain coastline for our capital, and there really aren't too many terrain coastlines that we'll be fighting in. So, since we have this custom one here, we should take Venetian trade. And now that we are done chilling, our truce with Mantua has actually ended. So I'm going to go ahead and attack Mantua, ignore all of their allies here. You can call in the Pope if you really want to. However, in this war, we're just going to be annexing Mantua and ignoring the rest of these allies. And now it is time to peace out Milan. I looked at the AE, and yes, 33 AE is actually quite a lot. However, we're only going to get around 20 from Mantua, so as long as you improve with these nations, you really shouldn't have to worry too much about a coalition. So, if you have the AE to spare, unless you've been taking some other stuff in Italy, with Milan, go ahead and take their capital, take all of their money, and that's it. And now it's time to peace out Mantua. For Mantua, just full annex them. Even though we took the capital of Milan, it's still not too much AE that we have, seeing as we've been improving with people and we've had our merchants set to establish communities. So with Mantua, full annex them and take all of their money. And after your war with Mantua, or Milan, or both in my case, it's now time to chill for a few years and get ready to fight the Ottomans again. And now that our truce is over with the Ottomans, it is time to attack them. And And now that our truce is over for the Ottomans, it is time to attack them for the second time. However, before you attack the Ottomans, remember to go ahead and release Bulgaria from the one Bulgarian province that you took in the first war. This will allow you to reconquest all of the cores that Bulgaria has, which is on most of the Balkans. So, when your truce is up with the Ottomans, remember, release Bulgaria if you haven't already, and then for the war goal, use the Bulgarian cores. I'm going to attack the Ottomans for the conquest of Sofia. By this point in the game, you should have enough government reform progress to reach your tier 5 government reform. Now, what you select for this can vary on what you have done and what you plan on doing. Union of States is the best one for a global trade power. However, as we've been expanding pretty rapidly as Venice, and seeing as Venice as a Serene Republic struggles with governing capacity quite frequently, I'm going to go ahead and take the administrative divisions. Okay, so when it comes to the Ottoman peace deal, this war was actually a lot harder than it was supposed to be. I was in the middle of the war, it was going really well, but then the Austrians joined using that great power function where a great power is able to join a war if there's two great powers and they can join on the side of the one that's losing. It's a awful, awful mechanic. While we were at war, the Hungarians actually declared on the Ottomans, so they occupy all of these provinces. Unfortunately, I'm not able to give everything to Bulgaria. So this should be the peace deal in your game. Again, ideally, in your game, it should be all of the Balkans go to Bulgaria. However, due to this particular situation, I'm just going to take as much as possible. And by this point in the game, after fighting the Ottomans, and if you're unlucky after fighting the Austrians, being forced to fight the Austrians, your realm should look a little bit something like this. You should have conquered all of the one province minors in Italy, at least all of the ones in northern Italy, Trent, Mantua, Ferrara, and you should have taken most of the provinces from Milan here. As you can see, Milan actually only exists in one province as they just got annexed by Savoy. So if you were to continue this game, you'd have to fight Savoy, and you should have fought at least 2 wars with the Ottomans by this point. Don't be too scared with the Ottomans, as long as you have at least a couple great powers on your side, as long as you have at the very least Austria or Poland, at least one of them helping you out in the first war against the Ottomans. As you continue in your game, for your third idea group, you should take either plutocratic or quality. Quality is slightly better as you are able to do the policy with quality ideas to give extra trade efficiency, which is massive, and quality will just help to buff up your army and your navy. For your fourth idea group, it's really up to you. You can either take any one of these, either Diplo or one of the admin ideas. However, if you do have enough points left over for an admin idea, I would recommend taking economics so you can play tall, as Venice is a great playing tall nation. And past your fifth and your sixth idea group, really the choice is up to you if you even continue your game that far. For tier 7, I recommend taking either expand free trade, economic theory, this one here, empower the burghers, or mercantilist approach. All of these are really good, and it's ultimately up to you and what situation you find yourself in. For tier 8, I recommend you take really any of these here. The absolutism doesn't really matter until you get into the age of absolutism, and once you hit the age of absolutism, you should probably be a monarchy, or you can just reform out of these government reforms. For tier 9, I recommend you take really any of these possible policies that you need. It depends what ideas you've taken past that point. If you need more military policies, then take a possible military policy. If you need more diplo policies, then take possible diplo policies. Or if you need more admin, take more admin. If you don't need any of these, then I recommend Principles of Enlightenment, as that Years of Separatism is very nice for reducing unrest, especially if you're going to start blobbing into North Africa and into Anatolia and into the Middle East and beyond. For tier 10, I recommend taking Citizenry, as that morale of armies is just too nice. For tier 11, I recommend Appointment by Committee, as that possible advisor is very nice, and extra advisor costs is quite nice, especially since you should be taking the monument here in Athens, which at its peak gives 20% advisor costs. Combine that with the government reform and any other monuments that you might be taking in Italy, in Iberia, and in North Africa and beyond, you will have some crazy advisor discounts. And for tier 12, It really is up to you. Any of these are good here, depending on whether you want to stay as a republic in the age of absolutism or not. Ultimately, if I had to recommend one, I'd recommend Federal Senate. As far as the rest of the expansion paths go, it's ultimately up to you how far you want to expand. You should really start expanding into Austria and into Hungary, and use whichever claims that Byzantium has, give them some of their claims here, and then annex them, or just annex them outright. Bulgaria, give them the rest of their cores here. In my case, Hungary's probably going to take these provinces, so just use that reconquest against the Hungarians, expand into Anatolia, and eventually into Egypt as well, as you want to take these very nice trade provinces that are down here. If you wish to continue blobbing, maybe perhaps form the Roman Empire, or just form a very big Italy, I recommend expanding into Anatolia, and further into the Balkans, and into Hungary, and into North Africa, and potentially even into Iberia and beyond. Thank you very much for watching. This has been a guide for the nation of Venice in EU4 1.34.